Right. So make sure you've got a cup of tea, some water, and whatever you need for the next hour to get really comfortable so that we can do this workshop together. Pen and paper, that's all you're going to need. And then the workbook, some of you might have printed it out. I printed it out and had a little scribble. So before we start, I know a lot of you, and I'm so chuffed that so many of you have joined, so many of you who are my friends and clients and joining from lots of different places. It's this week I've had lots of lovely messages from lots of you, and it really has made me feel very, very loved. So thank you so much, so much for joining. So just a little intro to me for those of you who do not know me. I am a yoga teacher. I've been teaching about 4.5 years, and this past year I've moved a little bit into creating these self-growth workshops. And it's been a really natural kind of transition for me, purely because I have dealt more and more into this kind of stuff myself in my own personal life. So I got into yoga because I was signed off work. I was working as an assistant director in TV for about 8 years, and I was struggling with insomnia and anxiety, and I kind of turned to yoga, thinking that yoga was just chanting and stretching. Didn't really think that I would get into it at all. I was incredibly not flexible. I very much struggled with my first few yoga classes, but there was something really powerful about the spirituality side of it for me. And yoga has massively helped me build my self-worth. And this is basically what so many of these different workshops are about. So we can name them different things: core values, boundaries, codependency, building resilience. But what so much of the underlying message is, and what I believe a lot of us need, is this building of self-worth. And my self-worth was absolutely at rock bottom when I got signed off work. I felt a complete and utter failure. So yoga had really helped me kind of turn that around. And then at the end of 2019, trying to work out where we are now, I was married and very much on this path in London for trying for babies, buying a house. I've been with my partner for 10 years, and in the space of one conversation, a short conversation, everything kind of fell apart for me, and me and my husband ended up separating, and I moved to Bali. And what actually amazed me was how I was able to deal with all of that heartache in a way that, of course, it was incredibly difficult, but I had this incredible toolbox that meant that I didn't feel crushed in my own self-worth. So yeah, the situation was really hard and horrible, but I never doubted that I was still a wonderful person, even though I was going through this breakup. And I think that for me, it like kind of sums up how I think all this stuff is just so powerful. We can't control our lives. So, as we know, this last year, I haven't had much of the experience of COVID out in Bali compared to a lot of you, but we can't control what's going on. But what we can control is how we react to these difficult situations that are thrown our way. So if I can give you some guidance with that and some inspiration with that, then that would make me incredibly happy. So we're going to start with the workbook. So I'm just going to read through the first couple of pages. I'm hoping, in fact, before we start, what I would love to do is just get a little bit from all of you. How many of you struggle with setting goals at the beginning of the year? Like, how many of you have tried to before, it hasn't worked? How many of you have set New Year's resolutions, it hasn't worked? So I just want you to write a yes if you've struggled with this before. Just pop it in the chat. It would be really lovely to see this. Yes. So I hope you can all see the chat, that all of us struggle with this. Yes, someone says, I don't believe in resolutions. I don't really either. So what I really want to give to you all today is this idea that this is something that we have to work on throughout the year. Of course, at the beginning of the year, it's a really wonderful way to think of like resetting everything that's been going on. So you want to think about letting go of stuff that you don't want to bring into 2021. So the beginning of the year is a wonderful time to do it, but we want to be doing this throughout the year. And we want to keep checking in. So journaling is a fantastic way to do this. So I'm just going to go through these first couple of pages. Okay, so as we've seen from the chat already, the likelihood is whatever you are suffering with right now, someone else is in a very similar situation. In fact, a huge amount of people will be. So together as a community dedicated to self-growth, because if you're here, then you have some interest in self-growth and self-learning for sure. We can support one another to take the baby steps needed to change our lives, to make 2021 an incredible year. And I know for a lot of you, again, lockdown, etc., you're going to be feeling like this is going to be a tough start to the year. But I really believe that we can bring some positivity into this. So 2020 has been a tough year for most. In order to move forwards, we must reflect and look back. This is imperative in order to make the transformations needed in our lives to feel happy, strong, uplifted, and like we are living out our lives full of purpose and passion. So there's a lot of research that has gone into finding our core values and our passion being like a really, really wonderful foundation for health and happiness. So I believe we must take a moment to be grateful for everything we already have. You cannot be happy if you constantly want more and more without appreciating what you have already achieved. Accepting that we are exactly where we are meant to be, that we are already whole, is a wonderful starting point. And we can do that a little bit later on with our positive affirmations. So goal setting is extremely powerful, and it can allow us to get laser focused and work out exactly what it is that we want to bring into our lives in 2021. How much time do we all waste scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through random rubbish, or how much time do we simply waste either thinking about the past, what we should have done, the guilt we have, etc. I'm one who thinks way too much about guilt. Or we're worrying about what's going to happen in the future. And what we really want to be doing is focusing on the here and now, because that is all we have. Ultimately, that's all we have. And if my experience has taught me anything, it's that you can have as many plans as you like, and you can really believe your life is going in a direction, and it can totally change in the blink of a moment, the blink of an eye, whatever that saying is. Honestly, it was about 30 seconds and my whole life changed. And I really believe it was meant to happen. But that is why I'm so passionate about really trying to use these tools to live in the here and the now. So we get so distracted by everything going on around us, and we forget to take a moment to be here right now and look at what it is that we desire, dream, and hope for. So that's why it's really important to set aside time to work out what we want this year. We tend to spend so much of our time focusing on other people. What if we gave even half that time back to ourselves? How much would we grow? How much would we achieve? How inspired would we be? My guess is the sky is the limit. So as you approach this workbook, make sure you have a good hour or two set aside. Turn off your phone, shut down your laptop, find a quiet place. If music helps you focus, put your headphones in. So I'm hoping some of you have had a go at the workbook. Do not worry if you haven't. Can I just see some thumbs up if you've had a little go at the workbook? Cool, some of you, great. Fantastic. Hey, Becky. Oh, it's so lovely to see so many friendly faces. Okay, so let's get straight to page 1, hardest moments from 2020. How this is going to work, I'm going to work through this and tell you what I have written down. This, I feel, when I've run workshops previously, people have found that really, really helpful. But what I would love you to do is write anything in the chat. If you're coming up with questions as we go along, write them down. Any that I can grab and answer now, I will. Any that I miss, I will go through the chat. The chat gets saved at the end. I will go through the chat and I will make sure that I answer them, and I will be sending out an email full of resources and more help, because my guess is that I won't be able to get to all your questions. So I have sent the workbook twice, and I've sent it twice by email. So if you're struggling to see the workbook, I'm going to read out the questions, just write them down, and then you will definitely get the workbook. I'm going to send it out again as a final email when I'm sending everything. So this page is called Hardest Moments from 2020. My hardest moments have been, and then I want you to write down 1, 2, maybe 3 of your hardest moments. So just going through my hardest moments myself. My separation from my husband. And during that separation, realizing how low my self-worth has been in the past, and how different I am now. That there was a lot of sadness around that from me. Like I can now really look back and see how I really didn't rate myself at all. And so going through kind of that process of separation and the emails back and forth, and I'm really lucky because my separation is very amicable, but that was a very hard moment for me, really realizing my lack of self-worth in the past. Another one for me was taking the responsibility of how I failed in our relationship. So understanding my lack of boundaries, understanding my codependency, which is why for me, boundaries and codependency, for those of you who kind of follow me, you know, I'm all about it. I'm talking about it a lot because it's just something I'm massively trying to bring into my life, because I've realized in kind of my failures in my marriage where I went wrong. And I'm doing my best not to be guilty about that. And I really, if any of you are in a kind of a similar situation, I didn't have the tools back then. I didn't know that I could approach things differently. So there's no point in feeling guilty about it. And there's no point in having these regrets. It's just about like learning now and being like, right, well, now I know the tools. Now I'm going to get better at being in relationships with my friends, with my family, with my partner. So I really, really hope if any of you are in a similar situation, you can feel the same, that there's no point in having the guilt. It's just about moving forwards now. And then my other hard moment was, some of you might know this, when I got to Bali about a month in, I got mugged and pulled off my bike whilst I was driving my scooter at about 30, 40 kilometers an hour. And I did quite a bit of damage to my leg, my foot, my elbow, and my arm. And I wasn't able to really move for about a month. And that was very, very hard for me. But it's interesting, as soon as I talk about these hard moments, it brings me straight on to the next question, which is the 3 most important things I have learned are. So all of those things that were difficult, I'm actually really glad happened, because I learned so much from them. So the important things that I personally learned: how to set boundaries, and how by setting boundaries, I can massively, massively impact my self-worth. So when I was first introduced to boundaries, I just thought it was about saying no to things, which I was terrible at anyway. I was saying yes to everything. And then what I realized was boundaries are about so much more, and especially they are about building self-worth. The next important thing that I have learned, and guys, remember, please do just pop anything in the chat. And if you can, please make sure that you pop it into everyone so everyone can see the chat. So don't just write it privately to me. So the next one is how important it is to live by your own core values, and how important it is to keep looking at these. And what happened when I separated from my husband, I started to really look at what I wanted rather than what I wanted as part of like a couple, as part of a relationship that I'd been in for so long. And I really realized that something that I had wanted for so long was to move abroad. So for me, it was like this decision that was so easy to make, because for so long I had wanted it. For so long I had been in a partnership that didn't allow me to do that. And then luckily I was able to kind of move forwards with that. So in a way, yeah, really looking at my core values really helped that, because one of my core values I'm realizing more and more is freedom. And then my last kind of important thing that I've learned is how to use language in a kind and compassionate way in order to speak my truth. Language, super important. How we use it has been really interesting to me. And if we can touch on that during this workshop, I will. Setting boundaries is definitely one for me, both in work and my personal life. So hard, but was a weight off my shoulders. Yeah, you feel a sense of lightness when you start to set boundaries. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Just thinking of one as I'm going through this, something that I took from being mugged and pulled off my bike. I saw it as this sign to slow down. When I first got here, I set up this online channel, which I know some of you were a part of, and I was rushing around like a lunatic, like I was still in London, just trying to get everything done, waking up at 6 a.m, going to bed at 2 a.m, working, and I felt like being pulled off my bike was this like sign to just slow down. And as much as I can, I try and see the positive things in the shitty things that happen to us. And I know that that's like a strength of mine. So I know I feel like I'm blessed with that sense of positivity. But if there's any way to like reshape your experiences that you've had in order to create these learning moments, then it just means that everything that happens to us is an opportunity for us to learn and grow. Did you have any fear of the unknown in moving to Bali? Oh yeah, I was terrified. I knew one person, but it just felt right. And I think with fear, and I was talking about this in my last class, it's like looking at what is the worst that could happen. So if I didn't like it here, and if it wasn't working out for me, I could just come back to the UK. That's how I saw it. Like I didn't even have the plan to move here for a certain amount of time. I haven't come back because of everything that's happened. But yeah, I think if you can reframe your idea around fear as like nervous excitement, and that's all it was. I was just nervous. I didn't know anyone. It was a new place. I hadn't driven a scooter really before. I just had to learn how like everything works out here. But you do learn. And the lucky thing is also when you start asking for help, people are pretty good at giving help, especially out here in Bali. Everyone come to Bali. Everyone's very loving out here. Louise, what was the third point about language? So for me, something that I've really learned over the last year is how to use language in a kind and compassionate way. So to try and give you an example, I'm really careful about how I say things, even to myself in my head. So this is something I did in therapy. I used to say to myself and to other people, I'd say, before I even started a sentence, I'd be like, oh, I know this sounds really ridiculous, but, and then I'd say something. Oh, I'm nervous that this might sound silly, or maybe I'm being a bit ridiculous, or feel free to ignore me. That was like how I started every single sentence. The more you say that, the more you are convincing yourself that you are stupid and that people shouldn't listen to you. Take out that beginning bit and just say what you want to say. And I think that was so powerful to me when my therapist said to me, you do realize the way you speak to yourself. And not only was I saying it out loud, I was saying it in my head as well. So it's really important to start to think about how you're using language, not only out in the world, but also in your head. The other classic one, I get it from people all the time. I'm really sorry, I don't mean to be a pain, but no, you're not being a pain. Feel free to ask. And the thing is with me now, because I'm hopefully putting these boundaries, I will say no if I can't do it, if I feel like it's something that is kind of crossing a boundary for me. Oh, this is such an interesting one. Margot, when you initially moved to Bali, did you feel like you were doing it to run away? So I'm actually going to talk about this further on in the workshop. But yes, my go-to is in my head straight away. It's like run. I do it all the time. I'm like, even in the little place I'm living in Bali now, I'm like, if things go a bit wrong, I'm like, I've got to run out of Canggu and I'm going to go to this part of Bali or go to another island. So it's definitely something I have to work on. But I think, as with everything, there's like a balance with running away and kind of following something I'd really, really wanted to do. Okay, I'm going to move on just for now, just because I want to get through the workbook. Reflecting on 2020, what has been your biggest realization? So for me, the realization is anything is possible. It is so easy for us to be duped into thinking we have to play small, that we have to fit into society's expectations. This ability to think, what's the worst that can happen, as I was talking about. We are not in control of what happens to us, but we are in control of how we react. That's been the biggest realization for me. And society's expectations are really hard, I think, for all of us. I mean, I get lots of people saying, oh, but so, what's going to happen? Do you still want children? You're mid-30s now, that kind of thing. And I'm like, if I look to the future, yes, that scares me because I really would love a family. But what's the point? I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm just going to enjoy where I am at now. So that's kind of been a huge realization for me. So again, it's like this reframing of this crappy thing that happened where I kind of lost my husband, and then I've now realized that I can take so many things from that and live in a much more free-spirited way. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Okay, what's been your biggest change? For me, moving to Bali, new friends, new opportunities, new lifestyle, deciding to get a divorce, and mindset wise, you'll see what I love about these workbooks is things just keep repeating, and so it's almost like you're reaffirming to yourself all these different things. So for me, mindset wise, my biggest change was living in the moment and not being so afraid of the future. So Lisa, money worries. I think money worries are just for everyone. People are very scared about money. And what I would say is I have learned so much from people here in Bali. People move here with hardly anything. And I know it's a lot cheaper to live here, but people find ways to get by, whether it's like doing a little bit of work here or like finding this opportunity here or working for free here, and then it gives you this or gives you that. And it's there. I think that's why Bali draws so many kind of people who are lost and people who are wanting a huge change in their life. And me and my friends always joke that there's the island. I don't know if any of you are Moana fans. I'm a huge Moana fan. The island gives you what you need. And I was lucky because I moved here with my yoga platform, kind of a lot of it already online. So I had an income to move here with, but I've been so impressed and inspired by the people who really are living on hardly anything, but just living a life of happiness and not worrying so much about money. And I think money is a really hard topic for me to go into because everyone is so different, in terms of whether you are reframing your idea about money or whether you really absolutely have no money. It's like for me, I really had to reframe my idea of money because when I quit work, I had to have help from my husband and my mum and dad in order to pay the bills, because I quit work like that. I was signed off work like that, and I really didn't have savings, and I wanted to retrain. So I had to lean on people. And for me, that was so hard to like swallow my pride and be like, yeah, mum and dad, I'm 28. Please, can you give me some money so I can literally make my way and pay my mortgage and so on and so forth. So I feel like there's so much that can be said around money, and for me, therapy really helped that. Yes, I've started to realize me time is not selfish. Exactly. I love that. Ooh. No, oh, have I skipped the gratitude? Maybe I've done it in a different, oh yeah, wait. I have skipped the gratitude page. Excuse me, we will go back to the gratitude page. It's because I didn't bind it. I'm loving all your comments, and I'm going to have a proper look. I just want to get through a few more pages. Okay, so gratitude for 2020, your 3 happiest moments from 2020. So for me, mine was launching my channel. That was a huge project, and celebrating that with the girls out here was a really fantastic moment. Another one, I had this weekend away with new friends, and I was like, overlooking, it was this beautiful place overlooking the sea. We had this pool. I felt like I was like in a movie. It was just ridiculous how wonderful this weekend was. And it was all this completely new friends, new life. And I remember just looking at it being like, how different my life could have been. So that was a really happy moment for me. And then I did this amazing trip to the Gili Islands, very last minute. I had to get cover for my classes, and at first I was like, no, I can't do it because I've got these classes and I've got these commitments. And then I was like, screw it, I'm going. And I just got cover and realized that none of that really matters. I ended up having this trip of a lifetime, and yeah, just kind of jumping at the opportunity. That was a really wonderful moment for me, because sometimes I get tied down by work and wanting to be there for people, and I kind of put myself first. And the reason why like it's so important for us to be grateful is because we can get stuck in this loop of like never being satisfied. So I'm definitely someone who's so super ambitious. So I'm like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? But you have to reflect back and realize how much you've done, and how yeah, and be super grateful for what you already have. Otherwise you just get in this thing of wanting more and more and more, and that can kind of be dangerous. Your 3 achievements that you are most proud of. So for me, it was launching my channel and my podcasts, and this is really meant in a very kind way, because I still love him to bits. Deciding to divorce my husband, because I really was in limbo and I was finding it very hard to make this decision. So I'm very proud of myself that I managed to finally make that decision. And then the other one is my mentorship program. I mentored some new yoga teachers, or a group of yoga teachers in the summer, and it really was just the most magical experience. So kind of stepping into something new and unknown, I was very proud of. And another reason why I think this page is really important, when I first started therapy, I was at a point where I really couldn't see, like, I couldn't be proud of anything I was doing, because I really felt like this big failure. And so my therapist asked me to start every day journaling and basically writing down the small things that I could be proud of. So whether that was like getting out of bed and making myself a cup of tea, that like small act of self-care, or going to a yoga class, or saying something nice to myself in my head, or changing my language slightly, or going to therapy, getting myself to therapy. So no matter where you are, like I feel like some of my stuff, like the things I'm proud of this year, I've done some bigger things this year, but I've definitely been in places where I'm like, I don't know what I'm proud of. And so finding those small moments, taking those baby steps is really important. So don't feel like you have to have this massive achievement. It can be the little things. And then 3 people and moments that you are grateful for. For me, I'm doing like one for my work. I've like kind of created this little team now, and that they have been unbelievable in supporting me this year, especially my assistant, who we're calling my communications manager, which sounds very fancy. My great friend Saz, I don't know if any of you see me with her out here. She's just been like this unbelievable friend to me. I've known her for 10 years. We used to work together in TV, and she came out here for 5 days, ended here for 10 months. And we've had an incredible time here. I'm gonna look at some of your comments. Yes, surrendering and acknowledging we cannot always be in control. Amy, I totally agree with you. Yes, Beth, I love that. My biggest realization has been that I am the only person who can take charge and ownership for my life. I cannot expect others to do it for me, even if it is out of love. It is up to me. I love that, Beth. something that I think I've really learned in doing some work around codependency is like, you want to be your own best friend. That's the responsibility you can take. And a lot of us, especially because Disney and the movies tell us that we want to be like saved by someone, we get it into our head that that's like the most important thing, but we're the only people who can do the work and like save ourselves. So I really, really love that, Beth. Yay, Laura, I'm loving this. I'm loving this language. I've accomplished so much. Love it, love it, love it. I'm going to keep reading down. Laura, I'm going to get back to reading your whole thing. Lisa, yes. Do you ever just look at the page and think of nothing to write? Yes, absolutely. So just please don't worry. The fact is you've shown up and you are here. Like, we are all here with you, rooting for you. And like, just if you can't write anything right now, just put your pen down, listen, be in this like atmosphere. I always feel like even though we're all kind of online and we're not in a room together, there is still a wonderful atmosphere of us all being in this together, all wanting to like level up. I don't love that wording, but level up and be better versions of ourselves. And it just sometimes is like baby steps. So please don't worry. Just put your pen down and have your cup of tea and just do what you can now, and maybe you'll come back to this in like a week. As I said, this is like a work in progress for sure. So moving forwards to 2021, what do you want more of in your life? So for me, I want more balance. I want more of an opportunity to kind of step away from everything, because what I believe is, and this is like a huge lesson that I feel is so worthwhile everyone realizing, and I hope maybe like COVID and working from home or having time off work or whatever your situation might have also helped you realize this. When you step away from things, you create this space to actually work out what you want. If you are on the treadmill of life, like rushing around from place to place to place, doing what's expected of you, continuing with society's expectations, etc., you never take this time to pause and step away and work out what it is that you actually really want. So I've said, like, the growth that can occur from stepping away is huge. It's so powerful. So if I can encourage you anything, it's to really try and take those moments in 2021, however you can do it, whether it's like taking holiday for a day of just you, not going away anywhere, not doing anything in particular, but just committing to a day for yourself. I've said, what do I want less of in my life? Feeling overwhelmed. I always feel really overwhelmed when I'm super busy. Meditation very much helps me with that. Distractions, I can get really distracted. I don't know if any of you are like that. I'll be like working on one thing and then I'm looking at another thing, and then I go and get a cup of tea, and I've got to get a little bit more focused for sure. And then this is a really beautiful one. I don't know how many of you follow Brené Brown, but she always talks about the story I'm telling myself, which is like these stories that we create in our heads that are not true at all, but we convince ourselves are true. So that's definitely something that I want less of in my life, like being really aware that I'm creating a story. Yay, this is lovely. Sally, I also do the journaling of listing positive and nice things daily, as it helps see the positives. Absolutely, it's such a wonderful way to journal as well. You may feel like you can't do anything or can't achieve anything, but actually when you look at it, we do loads each day. Get up, make our bed, make food, look after the kids, keep a house tidy, etc. This is an achievement in itself. Yeah, I love that. So Lisa, that's like wonderful advice from Sally. And so one of the people I follow, Mark Groves, he talks about an act of self-care every day is him making his bed. He sees that as like an act of self-love and self-care. So it's these tiny things that really make a difference. Self-care and self-love doesn't have to be extravagant at all. Less procrastination and self-doubt. Yes, I agree. I think we all struggle with that. Okay, I just want to read this one from Hannah. In some ways, it feels like lockdown put many of us under additional pressure, expecting ourselves to achieve so many new things, whilst also trying to cope with a huge change in our way of life. I've really learned that we cannot compare ourselves to others. Sally, I completely agree with you. We all need to appreciate the simple things we manage to do each day. I totally agree. And one thing that's going to stop you from changing is getting really overwhelmed by pressure. So just trying to think of things, little steps, one day at a time. Lenny, thank you for joining. Is super powerful. Okay, making changes. How are you going to bring about these changes? So for me, one of the changes I said that I wanted was having like being able to step away. So I'm going to schedule in little mini breaks so that I can have time away from work. I've also done this thing. I've got my little whiteboard. I don't know if any of you have seen that I do this whiteboard. Can I show you? Let me see if I can show you. Down there, there's my little whiteboard. So I'm trying to create a day, which is like and I know in some ways I'm very lucky because I work for myself, but I'm calling it like a self-growth day where it's about me. It's not about trying to give to others or teaching or anything like that. It's just about learning the things I want to learn. So that's been something that I really want to stick to this year. So far, I didn't achieve it last week. I put it down and I didn't achieve it, but never mind. I'll have another go this week. Okay, one thing, if anyone struggles from getting distracted, there's this like 90-minute rule that really helps me. You work for 40 minutes or you're doing something for 40 minutes, even if it's like my creative day for 40 minutes. You turn your emails off, your phone is in a different room, and you get laser focused. You then have a 10-minute break. And in that 10-minute break, you can't go back to your phone or your emails or anything, but you can make yourself a cup of tea, meditate, take a moment to breathe, do a bit of movement, something that is going to nourish you. And then you go back to another 40 minutes. In that 90 minutes, when I do that, I achieve often more than I would in a whole day. So the 90-minute rule is really fantastic, especially lots of you are working from home and struggling with those boundaries between work and home. Okay, creativity. What is it that allows you to be creative? What do you enjoy doing simply for the pleasure of it? What have you always wanted to try but never have? So I love playing my guitar. I'm never going to be a guitarist. I'm never going to perform, but I just love doing it. It's literally for me. It makes me smile. I can't really sing, but I have a go at it. But for me, that's like a real moment of like, this is me time. And there's something that has been really powerful for me. This book, Lost Connections, I really recommend reading it. Johann Hari talks about the fact that we have extrinsic values and intrinsic values. Extrinsic values are often things like money and status. Intrinsic are the things we do for pure joy. The more intrinsic values that we can bring into our life, the less likely we are to be anxious or depressed. But because society has this thing of like, we have to achieve at everything we do, we think it's a waste of time to be creative and to do these things that intrinsically give us joy. I would love you to try and reframe your ideas around that and really start to get to think about what it is that allows you to be creative and get more of that into your life. If that's something you can, if that can be like your goal for the whole of 2021, that would be fantastic for your mental health. I want to skateboard. That's what I'm going to try and start doing this year. It's my new thing. Okay. Oh, and also I love this. So Johann Hari, he talks about extrinsic values being like junk values, and he talks about them being like KFC for the soul. Okay, dreaming big. We're on dreaming big. What would you dream of doing if you knew you couldn't fail? Dream big. Perhaps write down your ideal day from start to finish. Okay, so what have I written? Okay, so my dreaming big would be that all my projects this year are a huge success, that I start to create a ripple of change all over the world. Why not? Let's just dream really big. So I've also said that I make it accessible and easy for people to step up, and that I demonstrate to people that they can create the lives they want to create. And then by the age of 40, I want to have done a TED Talk. That it feels scary saying that out loud, but those are my dreaming big. The other thing about creating your ideal day, again, I did that in therapy and I found it really, really helpful, because it was like, what am I doing that isn't my ideal day? And how can I just bring in even like a step or two into my daily routine to create my ideal day? Okay, breaking it down. So I think kind of from like what Lisa was saying, Louise, who wrote that book, Johann Hari, I'm going to write it in an email as well. You're going to get loads of book recommendations, etc., etc. Yeah, with goals, I think we can get super, super overwhelmed by thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do this year? Especially when so many of you have started it in a difficult place. So what I'd love you to do is simply think of 2 goals, and these can be tiny goals, and you could have 1 work, 1 life goal, or 2 work, 2 life goals. But it's actually not that helpful to have loads and loads of goals. It's less likely that you're going to stick to it, because it's like it's that sense of overwhelm. It's like, can you actually just stick to maybe 1 or 2 things? And also I've got 4 down here: 2 work, 2 life. If I just get 1 of them, I'll be happy. Like, it really doesn't need to be a huge amount of pressure on this. But also, goals will change, so it's so nice to relook at these things. And what I think I might do is try and revisit this maybe every like quarter or something, to show that it's not just something we do at the beginning of the year. My core values have changed from the beginning of last year to now. Things are going to change as you grow more, as you open your eyes up more to all the possibilities. Your goals and standards of everything are going to change. So it's not like you have to be really set on this. So just approach this with like not too much pressure, just with the sense of like, oh yeah, it'd be great if I could do this or I could do that. So for me, work-wise, I have 2 main goals. One is a online boundaries course that I'm writing, and one is my Yoga Teacher Academy, which is going to be like a new mentorship program. And then for life, so I'm going to start doing this thing, and I really I'm excited to share more about this, but this will come in the future. I'm going to journal more around my strengths. So I did this thing where I learned what my 5 top strengths were. It was like this online thing. I'll send it to you. You pay like $20 or something. And now I know what my strengths are. I really, really try and focus on those and notice when things I do adhere to those strengths, but also not get so upset when the things that I'm not naturally so good at don't work out for me. And that's when I know I need to ask for help. So it's like a really beautiful way for you to remember like how successful you are by really noticing these strengths, but also not get hurt up by the things you're not so good at. And then my other thing is being able to play and sing 5 full songs on the guitar. Okay, I'm gonna have a little look at Amy. Time for creativity is one of the most important things for me. Making time to be in my studio and make art brings me so much joy. I love that. Georgia, yes to the program. Thanks, Becky. Thank you all so much for contributing to the chat. It's really lovely, and I really feel like when we all get together like this, again, we're all over the world, lots of you are in lockdown, but it just shows that how many of us are struggling with the same things. And I still struggle with a lot of the same things as well. And I just think it's so important, because I used to get up in this story that I told myself, which was that around my insomnia, that I was like this failure and I was the only person who had such bad insomnia. You know, you go so drastic, especially when you've got lack of sleep and your perspective is completely gone. And the more I share about my journey, the more I realize people in just such similar situations. And that's solace to me, like this sense of community, that together we can share, together we can be vulnerable, together we are struggling with the same things, and together we can start to move forwards. Okay, 3 inspiring books that you would like to read this year. I'm going to give you all loads and loads of suggestions, because I got loads of suggestions from you guys on Instagram the other day. I've also got some wonderful ones that I read last year. And so if you're stuck with that, don't worry, you're going to have lots of inspiration. If anyone wants to write it in the chat, please do. If you've got an amazing book, write it down. I will also add that into the email. 3 people who inspire you and why. So number one for me, Mark Groves has had a huge impact on my life. He's kind of introduced me to boundaries. I love his honesty, his humor, his vulnerability, and ability to make content accessible and empowering. For me, that's something that I really hope that I can bring to people like you, not making things too complicated, just making them like able to fit into your everyday life, not like they're this like massive hurdle. And then one of my mentors is another inspiring person to me, Emma Cannon. I don't know if any of you know her. She was kind of helping me a bit with my like fertility journey because I lost my period for a while due to stress and so on. And she's ended up being this mentor for all parts of my life. And we talk about it being like a fertile life, not necessarily like having a fertile body, but actually just having a fertile life. And she's been such an epic cheerleader to me. And that actually leads me on to something that I want to say. There's something around the people that you spend the most time with you become like a product of. So it's really important to be careful who you spend time with. And I think a lot of us fall into the trap of spending time with negative people or toxic people or people who don't add value to our lives. And something that I really have, I find so important and so helpful is being around people who are my cheerleaders. I literally say to them, I'm like, you're my cheerleader, because they're just rooting for me and I'm rooting for them. And there's no comparison. We're just there rooting for one another. So to create that community, again, it's just really powerful and really wonderful. And if any of you want to be linked up on here, you can always get in touch. Like some of you who come regularly to my workshops, you've linked up, and I know that's been really, really powerful and wonderful. So you can always just email me and we can do emails, WhatsApp group, Instagram, things like that. But there's just there's a whole heap of people here in this community that can help support you. Okay, so this is so hard. What aspects of your personality do you love? So if you are struggling with this, please don't worry. Just write something really simple and you can come back to this. This I found so hard when my therapist asked me to do this, because I did not like myself at all. Like I really, really didn't like myself. I just couldn't even think about putting pen to paper. So the next step, she said to me, she was like, I want you to contact like 3 or 4 of the people who you feel really safe with and who love you the most. And you're going to ask them what they love about you. So I did my mum, my dad, my brother, and my husband. And it was such an incredible exercise because so many of the things they loved about me, I hadn't even recognized in myself. So I really, really encourage you to do that. And just say to the people, like, they don't have to write an essay, but just literally a few words. Yeah, it's just a really lovely and empowering exercise. I actually have done it since therapy. I did it during the middle of last year when I was feeling low from my separation and divorce stuff. I reached out to some friends and again was really surprised. So many of my friends think I'm really organized, which I really don't feel I am, but to be perceived as that was really lovely and really really nice. Yeah, so don't worry if you're struggling with this. Reach out to other people, and it can be like a work in progress. The more work you do on yourself, the more you will learn to love yourself, the more you'll become like your own best friend. Meditation is another fantastic tool for that, and I will pop in the email my meditation teachers, because I actually ended up doing a meditation course that was super helpful for me because I was struggling with meditation. Okay, what can I improve on? So for me, I've written taking a moment to breathe when I'm triggered. When I'm triggered badly, I just want to snap. My eyes well up with tears. It's like I'm totally out of control. It's like I'm having this outer body experience because I think I'm quite good at not reacting. I used to be terrible. I used to fly off the handle. I'd have tantrums, and definitely when my anxiety was at its worst, I was quite angry and frustrated about life. And now that's all like simmered massively. But if I'm really triggered, and the trigger for me is being made to feel like a child. But me and my brother had a terrible relationship growing up. We hated each other. We're now best friends. But if someone puts me back into that feeling of like, I'm stupid, like where I feel belittled. I don't know if any of you get this. You can either write yes or just nod your head or thumbs up, but like I can't even get my words out. Like I'm just like, I'm just in this like paralysis when I'm that triggered. And I hate the person I then step into, because I normally snap, or I'm like, you're mean, or I'll walk out. Hence the running thing. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave, screw everyone, I'm getting out of here. So those feelings I still get, and I really just want to create, even if it's like a beat, just like this beat where I can go, breathe, 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 and then maybe I can react, just even again if it's like not so angry. Maybe I'm saying the same things, but it's just in a slightly kind of way. Or instead of, like, one thing I'm trying to work on is, instead of saying you made me feel like that, what I'm trying to learn to say is, I feel hurt. I feel really hurt by that. So I own my feelings. It's not about someone else. It's like, I own how I feel. And that's a huge thing you learn in like the codependency stuff. How many of you use the language, you made me feel like this, or they made me feel like this? My mom makes me feel like this all the time. Try and rephrase it, and then you start to take responsibility for it, because you're like, okay, I can't change them, but what I can do is change myself. I can change how I react to this. I can put things in place so that this situation doesn't impact me so much, or I can put in a boundary so I don't even get to that place. I hope that's making some sense. And what can I improve on? My need to run away. That's another one. Okay. I'm just going to briefly go over this last one because I want to read some of your stuff. What is 2021 going to look like for you? I would love you all to get creative with this. I would love you to go away, even if you can, take photos of this, tag me in social media, or just send me it via email, but so that we can all see one another's. Because what I would love you to do is like either put it on a whiteboard or a massive piece of paper, or a mood board on Pinterest. Like, just get creative. This, even if you're terrible at like I'm terrible at that kind of creativity, but it can be so empowering. Like, you could create a spider diagram. You can just write words, quotes, your favorite quotes from people. You could write down your positive affirmations that you're going to bring in. You could cut up a newspaper or like a magazine and get photos of, like, this is the ideal house, this is my ideal day. Like, just getting really, really creative of what 2021 is going to look like for you. Take some time, get a big piece of paper, get some colored pens, and just like have fun with it. Put on some loud music. So my main thing that I've written is just epic. That's what I want 2021 to look like for me. And I've said things like embracing my strengths, balance, travel and adventure, love, stepping up, being reunited with my puppy. That's what I really, really want. Vulnerability, letting go of guilt, living in the present moment. Those are just a few ideas if any of you want to grab them. So if any of you want to write down any of your words for what is 2021 going to look like for you, if any of you want to share anything else, if any of you want me to answer a question, please write it in the chat, because I know an hour goes so crazy quickly, huh? It's mad. But I have loved this, loved every second. And please do just keep writing. I'm going to stay here for a little bit anyway. I'm going to read a few more things out. If you have to go, I totally understand. Beth, completely agree. Taking a breath first, allowing a few seconds to pass before reacting. Those few seconds can be all it takes. Ooh, Catherine, Peter Crone. I don't know any of that, anything from him. So thank you so much. I will look Peter Crone up. Don't know Emma Gunn's podcast. So thank you so much. Asley, thank you for what you've written privately to me. I totally can relate to that. Conflict. How many of us shy away from conflict because we're A, scared of feeling guilty afterwards, and B, we care more about how the other person is going to react than what we feel. Thumbs up. Conflict, such a hard one. That's where boundaries can come in really, really well. I actually just asked a couple of family members what they love about me, and it's actually very emotional receiving the responses. Thanks, Sophie. Great idea. I use visualizations a lot. I have a scrapbook where I keep pictures that have inspired me when I read magazines. I love that. Something I've also learned is I think we almost think that self-worth should be something that we have. It should just be something that we carry. And what I'm learning more and more is that it's not something we're really encouraged to have through society. We're more encouraged to like play small. And so this is where all this work is so important. And it doesn't have to be a huge mountain. It can be like, I'm going to do a page a day for the next 2 weeks on this workbook. But we have to work on our self-worth, and from self-worth springs everything. That's where we can then start to be creative. That's where we can start to think about what it is that we deserve and want to bring into our lives. Unless we get the self-worth, we can't start to make the changes, quit the jobs, get rid of the toxic people, move abroad. We have to build on that self-worth. There is no way I would have moved abroad like 4 years ago. No way. There's no way I would have been able to come to a decision about getting divorced 4 years ago. I needed to build that self-worth to be able to to move forwards in these ways. Lovely, Lisa. Send me an email and I'm gonna get you into a little community of lovely people who are going to help you feel connected so that you don't feel alone. And anyone else who feels like that, if you feel a little bit alone, and it's really not uncommon. It's something in Lost Connections. There's a crazy statistic. I know I'm running over a little bit. Give me a few more minutes. That in the study in the US is like the average American doesn't have a single person they feel they can turn to. Not like a single person, which is crazy. Oh, thank you so much for all your suggestions. This is amazing. Yay. Oh, I've got so many messages. Okay, it's saying 27 new messages. So I'm going to look at those when I leave. I'm going to send you a really awesome email with loads of inspiration. Please do get in touch, any feedback that you have, anything that you want me to include on the email. But my hope is like the email will almost be like another workshop for you to get like stuck into lots of resources, lots of inspiration, so that we can keep continuing to do this work. Thank you, everyone. And I am going to end by us having a group boogie. I know lots of you, it's early, but getting up on your feet, dancing around, shaking everything off, that can be a goal for some of you who need like a little tactic to get rid of anxiety, or someone told me that like animals do this in nature. They like shake things off. They actually like physically shake things off when they're feeling crappy. Okay, which song did I choose? Get ready for your dancing, everyone. Oh my God, I got so many messages. I'm so excited to read them. And being a part I don't know why it's not working. Okay, one more attempt. Okay, we're going for that. Quench my desire, and I'll be at your side forever. You keep on lifting higher, higher. Oh. We've got no battery, but we're going for this one. Thank you for staying with me. I'm sorry about that little fail for the little boogie, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so, so much everyone again for joining me. I really, really appreciate seeing you. Bye, Lucy. Bye, Natalie. Bye, Georgia. Bye, Isabel. Yasmin, Margot, Sabine, Lisa. Thank you so, so, so much. I'm so excited to read all your comments. Oh, thank you, Francesca. Oh, yay, yay, yay. Wow, such wonderful comments. Thank you so, so much. Beth, wasn't from a musical, but it's a great song, isn't it? Oh. I love that. Oh. Eugenia, thank you for such a lovely message. Right, so Sending you all love. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.